Hello, good morning. Let me introduce myself. My name is Agne Afrianita Putri, with the student ID number 234100, and I'm from the management class. On this occasion, I will present a very important and interesting topic for us to discuss together: types and forms of organizational change. Why is this topic important? Because fundamentally, every organization, whether a company, government agency, or educational institution, will inevitably experience change. Today's world is developing very rapidly, both technologically, economically, and socially. These changes are unavoidable. They must be faced and managed effectively so that organizations can survive and thrive amidst increasingly fierce competition. Organizations that are unable to adapt to change will eventually be left behind and may even decline. Therefore, understanding the types and forms of organizational change is crucial for us, especially for aspiring managers and future leaders like all of us. In general, organizational change is a process in which an organization adjusts various aspects within it, including structure, strategy, work processes, technology, and culture, with the goal of remaining effective in achieving its goals amidst a constantly changing environment. According to Robbins and Judge, organizational change can be defined as the implementation of new ideas, behaviors, or structures within an organization. This means that organizations cannot consistently maintain their old systems, as the needs, challenges, and conditions of the business environment are constantly changing. As a simple example, we can see how many companies that initially operated traditionally are now shifting to digital systems. For example, companies that previously only sold products offline now also open online stores to reach more customers. This is a concrete form of organizational change. So, organizational change is not just about changing job structures or work systems, but also encompasses ways of thinking, work culture, and strategies for facing the future. Next, we will discuss the types of organizational change. These types of change can be grouped based on the aspect being changed and the purpose of the change. A. Strategic change. Strategic change relates to the long-term direction and strategy of an organization in achieving its vision and mission. This type of change is usually undertaken when an organization wants to adapt to changes in the external environment, such as the emergence of new competitors, technological developments, or changing market needs. For example, a transportation company like Gojek made a major change by shifting its business model to a digital application-based one. They not only provide transportation services but also expand into food, logistics, and digital finance. This is a clear example of strategic change. B. Structural change. The next type of change is structural change. This change occurs when an organization changes the form or design of its organizational structure. For example, a company that originally had a long or multi-level organizational structure could transform into a leaner structure to speed up the decision-making process. Another example is the addition of new divisions, such as digital marketing or IT support, to adapt to current needs. These structural changes are essential for creating better coordination and work efficiency. C. Technological change. D. Cultural change or organizational culture. Cultural change concerns the values, beliefs, and behaviors within an organization. Cultural change is the most difficult to implement because it involves people and their habits. For example, a company that was previously accustomed to a relaxed and undisciplined work culture may need to adapt to a more professional and results-oriented organization. Cultural change takes time, as it requires familiarization and role models from leaders so that all members of the organization can accept the new values. E. Process or operational change. The final type of change is process or operational change. This change concerns how work is carried out daily, including work procedures, service systems, or reporting mechanisms. For example, a hospital that previously used a manual patient registration system now switches to a digital system with integrated data. This is an operational change that makes work faster and more accurate. Besides type, organizational change can also be seen from its form or level. This form of change indicates how quickly, deeply, and extensively the change occurs within the organization. A. Evolutionary change. Evolutionary change is gradual and continuous. Organizations make changes little by little over a long period of time. The goal is to ensure that the changes do not cause major shocks to the organization's members. For example, a university gradually updates its curriculum and learning system to adapt to the needs of the modern workplace. These changes are implemented slowly so that students and faculty can adapt effectively. B. Revolutionary change. The opposite of evolutionary change. Revolutionary change occurs quickly, suddenly, and comprehensively. It is usually undertaken when an organization faces significant pressure or a crisis that requires drastic change. For example, when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, many companies and educational institutions suddenly had to shift to online work and learning systems. These types of changes are surprising, but they often provide momentum for the organization to grow further. C. Reactive change. Reactive change is implemented after a specific event forces the organization to adapt. This means the organization reacts to a situation that has already occurred. For example, a company might update its security system after experiencing a customer data breach. This indicates that the change occurred due to external pressure or a pre-existing problem. D. Proactive change. In contrast to reactive change, proactive change is implemented before a problem occurs. Proactive organizations always strive to anticipate environmental changes to avoid being left behind. For example, e-commerce companies like Tokopedia and Shopee continue to innovate features, even when there are no new competitors. The goal is to remain market leaders. Changes like this demonstrate a visionary attitude and readiness for the future. Several main factors driving organizational change, including 1. Technological developments, such as the emergence of artificial intelligence and automation. 2. Global competition, which forces organizations to continuously innovate. 3. Increasingly complex consumer needs. 4. Economic or political crises that disrupt organizational stability. 5. Changes in social and cultural values in society. All of these factors require organizations to be. Besides type, organizational change can also be seen from its form or level. This form of change indicates how quickly, deeply, and broadly the change occurs within the organization. A. Evolutionary change. Evolutionary change is gradual and continuous. Organizations make changes gradually over a long period of time. The goal is to ensure that the changes do not cause major shocks to the organization's members. For example, a university gradually updates its curriculum and learning system to adapt to the needs of the modern workplace. These changes are implemented slowly so that students and faculty can adapt effectively. B. Revolutionary change. The opposite of evolutionary change. Revolutionary change occurs quickly, suddenly, and comprehensively. It is usually undertaken when an organization faces significant pressure or a crisis that requires drastic change. For example, when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, many companies and educational institutions suddenly had to shift to online work and learning systems. From this discussion, we can conclude that organizational change is inevitable. Organizations must be able to adapt to remain relevant amidst rapid environmental change. Change can be strategic, structural, technological, cultural, or operational, and can be evolutionary, revolutionary, reactive, proactive, planned, or unplanned. The key to successful change lies in the organization's readiness to face challenges and the ability of its leaders to direct and guide all members so that the change has a positive impact. This concludes my presentation on the types and forms of organizational change. I hope this material provides a clearer picture for all of us of the importance of change in maintaining the existence and sustainability of an organization. Thank you.